after the El Clasico match that we were all promised, I'm going to catch up with Fusions after this game. The Boston Uprising versus the Houston Outlaws. I mean, you must have seen the meme on Reddit with the monkeys dueling each other.
Memes. Yeah, the all the memes, the toilet match and all that stuff, you know, whatever it was called, the toilet bowl game. Honestly, my heart still hurts. I'm in pain. I might need to see a doctor. That was a very intense game. Watching it was more stressful than I have had any stress playing games. So, it was an interesting one.
Yeah, coming into this match, it seems like months ago that this match began. And the expectations for you guys, how did you feel as a team coming into this? Previously, when you played in New York, you were playing against a really top team. It looked like you guys hadn't quite got a handle on the meta. You were still playing double main tanks, but with like divey stuff as well. What changed over the couple of weeks for Boston?
So, we had a weird practice leading into the New York game. We played for a week where after the patch change, we only really saw teams playing Orisa Rein. We only scrimmed one team that were playing the Rein Diva. And then the week after that, when the week we're practicing for the New York game, we started seeing teams playing the Rein Diva. But we thought at that point, obviously New York had practiced it a lot. We knew they were quite good at it. If we started just trying to randomly play it then we would have, lost anyway. So it was better to go with what we had been practicing and try to do that. And then going into this game, we just threw that out the window. Everyone agreed that the Diva stuff was better for the most part, and it suits us well. So we just started practicing that and, practiced a lot up to this match.
My pet theory about why we saw Axiom today, I don't know whether it's correct, was just because he was playing the majority of the Rein in the double Rein kind of stuff, so he's kind of already in a position to be able to do that. What's the story there?
I guess kind of, but that's definitely not the main reason. I think he was already sort of unrusted on Rein, playing the Rein in the last meta with the Orisa comps as well. And obviously I was playing Orisa, so it was a harder transition for me. We did scrim with both of us for a little bit, but Axiom's comms have just been really good. He's really good at communicating with both the Western and Korean players and making everyone follow his plans and ideas. And he's super concise with it. He's also very good at just making on-the-fly calls that turn a fight around. For example, with dive, he'll see someone out of position, he'll change up a plan in the moment and call that. So he's just been doing a really good job of that. He's been playing really consistent. I mean, I think in my eyes, he was probably the MVP of our match today. I definitely think he showed why he should be playing.
So I heard you guys discussing it. Everyone was in just a fever after the match. Muffin's losing his mind. Color Hex is all over the place as well. What's it like for you behind the scenes watching it? What was going through your head when you're seeing your team up on the main stage and they look good and then suddenly it all looks like it's going to fall away?
Honestly, I was so hyped up. It was really good. Up until map 1, we started off a tiny bit slow, but then after that, we were rolling. And I think what happened is we got to map 4, halfway through it, our attack was good. Then we got into our own heads. We started thinking about the result of the game instead of map by map, fight by fight. And when you start doing that, it allows openings where you don't do stuff you would usually do in scrims. You start mispositioning because you're not thinking about it. And watching it sort of crumble slowly, especially going into map 5, then losing and going to map 6, that was so stressful. I cannot describe how much stress I was under during that. But yeah, they picked it up for map 7 and I could immediately see the difference in the comms. And after that, the stress kind of went away a bit.
You were in the backstage, in the dugout. You're able to listen to all the communication as well. Do you think that was a major factor, the rookies who were coming in brand new onto the main stage?
Yeah. Communication was probably the biggest part, I think. Our rookies definitely played the biggest part in that. Obviously, it's expected. It's their first games. They're both very energetic people that like to communicate with the fans and play to the crowd. So those guys, especially, it affects them a lot, the pressure. And just the thought of winning to them gets into their heads. But what happened to our communication once we started getting close to the win was we started shutting down. We stopped listening to Axiom's planning as much. Just a few things on the side, like people not communicating the things they usually do, and some people trying to fill in those gaps and overcompensate the comms just makes it so hectic. Because you're not used to playing like that in scrims. And then you saw what happened. We just played not to disrespect Houston, but we were against ourselves at that point, honestly. And then we picked that up on map 7. Our comms were normal and we 2-0'd them. So,
do you think there's more on the line for you guys as a team playing against Houston because they were 0-2 and there was the whole community perception of these are the bottom 2 teams in the league? Did that get into your head and change what you were doing coming into the game or how much you wanted it?
I think it was in the back of everyone's minds all the time. Everyone really wanted to win this match, but honestly, going into it, at least from my perspective, not as someone starting, but as a player as well, I was really confident. More of the pressure was on them because they had higher expectations coming into the season. We were the team that was already put at the bottom, and then they had the 2 bad games. So I felt like they are the ones that had everything to lose, and we just were kind of expected to be this bad team from the start. So people are kind of used to it. So we definitely had the underdog mentality. But then during the game, when we started thinking about the result and we started thinking, oh, we might lose to Houston, we're going to be the worst team. That's when the people playing, it really gets to their heads and it starts getting hectic. I mean, I've been in that position. I know what it feels like. It sucks.
You guys were going up against Blaz as well, a former teammate. And does that change things? Did that have more skin in the game for you when you're playing against Blaz?
I don't know about for Color Hex and Axiom. Obviously, I wasn't playing, so I didn't really think about it, to be honest with you. I sat next to Blaz watching the Philly NYXL game right before our match. Like, I was catching up with him a little bit. We're really good friends. I didn't really think about it at all going into the match, though. Like, going into the match, he's just any other opponent, you know. There's lots of friends and ex-teammates across the league, and I'm always happy to see them and talk to them, but when we're in game, they're just the same opponents, you know.
An unfortunate birthday, though, for him and the rest of the Houston Outlaws. That must be a bit of a devastating loss. I mean, what do you think those guys are going through from the kind of situation that you were in when you were so close? What is that like as a player to have to experience the loss on the other side of your win?
Yeah, it's got to be devastating. Being put down after the first couple of games and really just being put down so much. And then going into this against us, the game that you really have to win to prove that you have fight in you, and then they lose this after a map 7, I would just be devastated. I don't even know how to describe how I'd feel if I was in their shoes, especially people like Blaz, people like Meko who have been put down quite a lot going into these games. I really feel for them. It's rough, but it's something you've got to deal with as a player.
Let's talk a bit more generally rather than just harping on that match. It was an absolute spectacle, but let's talk a bit about the Boston offseason and like how you guys restructured, because you've made a lot of new additions, a lot of new rookies. It feels like a classic Boston Uprising thing to pick up these guys. How do you feel about the roster and the pieces that have been put together this year?
Yeah, so the thing when you build rosters like Boston does is that you don't have a stable core. For example, you can look at other teams like, for example, Paris this season, right? They picked up a core of Element Mystic players, right? So even though they don't have a core of a team from last season, they've built around a new core. We don't have that from the way we built the team, right? So we're always going to look a bit unstructured at first. A big difference between this year's team and last year's team is that everyone this year is very, very hardworking and motivated. Not that we weren't last year, but like there was always times where players would slack or just people didn't get along as well. But this year we're definitely much more of a family. Everyone really wants to win. Everyone wants to prove themselves this year. The guys that were here last year and struggled, the guys that are new here, they all have that winning mentality. And I think that's what's going to drive us. And hopefully we're just going to keep getting better and better going on.
What do you think about the community perception of Boston being the 20th place team? A lot of people putting you down there initially with the Valiant, who ended up performing way better than anybody expected. I mean, you got this win over Houston. What's your thoughts on the community expectations for Boston?
I don't know. Power rankings and stuff like that always change a massive amount over the season. Like, we started 18th last season. When we reverse sweep 3 times in a row in stage 3, we were like ranked 8 on all the power rankings. And then by the end of stage 3, we were like 20th again. So I learned last year to just not really pay attention to power rankings. I still read them, but they don't really affect me, sort of thing. You know, some of the rookies, they might affect more. I just think it's funny. I kind of like read them just as funny. But I like having the sort of underdog mentality. So seeing people place us last doesn't really get to me. I kind of just go with it, to be honest.
We saw a couple of rookies have their debuts today. Muffin in the post-game interview was just kind of having a little meltdown. He's right there in front of us. I think his hands have just about stabilized now. And Jerry as well, who the crowd, I don't know whether you could hear it, but the crowd was absolutely going mental.
On him, yeah. No, the rookies did really well for their first game. Obviously, when it goes to a map 7 and there's the premise of reverse sweep, everyone's going to choke. I think Jerry did a fantastic job today. He was nervous going into it. Like map 1, he was missing some shots that he usually hits in scrims. But then as soon as he hit his stride, it was just clean from there. I don't think he was one of the players that struggled with the choking as much. The other guys, Swimmer and Mufin, they did a good job. They really filled their roles in the maps that we won. Obviously a little bit panicked at some points, but overall they did a really, really fantastic job, and I think it's only going to be better from here when they don't have that much pressure on them.
What's your hopes for 2020 with the Boston Uprising?
I think from a league table standpoint, I think everyone wants to just shoot for playoffs. Obviously, to a lot of people outside the team, that sounds unreasonable for our team, but I think it's very possible. We have a lot of talent and a lot of players that are just going to keep getting better and better with more practice. I mean, Mufin's basically never been on a team past like tier 3 before, as far as I know. Jerry only recently made the transition to DPS, and you see what he's doing already. And the players that are here from last season, super motivated. So I think we're going to keep getting better, and playoffs is our end goal.
All right, well, thank you very much for the interview, Fusions. Good luck in the future as well. And that was one hell of a match.
Yeah, it was a crazy one for sure. Hopefully we'll maybe have some close ones like that against some good teams as well. We'll see.